And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking about the Washington Commanders possibly making some moves here at the NFL trade deadline. We'll also be talking a little bit more about this spectacular win against the Chicago Bears. But let's go ahead and jump into the possibility of the Washington Commanders going out and making a move at the trade deadline. And so, went ahead and jumped and found this article out here. I thought it was very interesting. But it has the Washington Commanders perhaps going after J.C. Horn of the Carolina Panthers. And so, I definitely would like it. It talks about the fact that, one of the more pressing needs for the Washington Commanders is the secondary. Currently, they are 27th as far as team grades and coverages is concerned. And so, yeah, I think that this is something that definitely makes sense for the Washington Commanders if they want to go out there and address the defense. I've said this a couple times on the show that I think it makes more sense to go after somebody on the defensive end than it does the offense, even though, I know given Jaden Daniels another option on offense is absolutely going to help them. But I think defensively, they're going to have to lock up a little bit because that's what we saw in that Chicago Bears game, which we're going to talk about here. But you're going to have defenses that are going to lock up, especially when you're going against defenses that are going to slow down your offense. So you got to be able to make some elite plays out there. And so I do like getting a player like J.C. Horn over. At 23 years old, he's definitely young enough. I definitely think that he fits maybe what the Commanders are trying to do as far as building out their timeline and everything. But I wonder with the injuries with J.C. Horn. That's really the biggest issue for me is that he's been injured, and I think if you can keep him on the field, that's a great thing. One of the other key aspects of this is they're talking about the price tag and what it would really take to get him over there, and that's something that I'm not sure that the GM of the Washington Commanders, Adam Peters, is really serious about because I don't know if he is willing to go out there and spend a whole bunch to bring somebody in because that's one of the things that I think I've kind of read about this team so far is that he makes very strategical moves about these kind of things, especially when it comes down to finances, and this is something that we did not have with the old front office. And so I think that this front office is a bit more calculated in what they're doing. They're much more playing chess than checkers out there. And so that's the only thing that I would say would hang up a deal like this. And it's like, would the Carolina Panthers be willing to go ahead and give J.C. Horn out there to the Washington Commanders would be a question too. And so, I don't know, especially if it's a team like we're not wanting to give up a whole bunch of draft capital to the Carolina Panthers. I'm sure that that's what they want because, again, Adam Peters, not only is he not trying to spin, but I also think that he's trying to take a little bit more of a natural approach in building this roster, which is built through the draft. And that's what I was talking about when it came down to players like Devontae Adams or Cooper Kupp. I just don't know that it would make a lot of sense for them to go out and get a player that they might be able to find some kind of similarity and really have some time to build with this player in the NFL draft. And so, it's intriguing, but I think that this is like a dream scenario. And so since we're talking about dream scenarios, I think another player that I feel like would be a dream scenario on the offensive end, speaking of teams that might be selling at the deadline, what about David Njoku, the tight end for the Cleveland Browns? I think that would be an interesting story if the Washington Commanders were somehow able to get him. Now, I know that, again, we're talking about a scenario where it is not going to be cheap to go out there and get him, but you still would get an elite tight end. And I don't know, you can always go find one in the draft, sure. And we do have a young tight end that we just drafted, but to bring a player like that over here, for a player like Zach Ertz, who's I think he's starting to really catch his rhythm right now over these last couple of weeks. But you get a chance to get a Pro Bowl caliber type of tight end over from Cleveland. They're not necessarily going anywhere. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, especially now that they have Jameis Winston out there starting for them and they're trying to get some momentum. But I would say that would be like a dream scenario. And I think it's something that would certainly help this offense because when I see Terry McLaurin go for 100+ yards against a tough Chicago Bears defense, I can only imagine. He's got Jaden Daniels has Noah Brown out there. He has Austin Eckler. You have Zach Ertz, and then you would add a David Njoku as well. Like that would be a tough offense to defend. You have to deal with the running of Jaden Daniels. You also have to deal with the running of Brian Robinson Jr. and Jeremy McNichols. That is a tough offensive unit to stop. So I'm just saying that's a dream scenario I'd like to see. But now as we move forward, talking a little bit about this win for the Commanders and, just talking about this defense, I know that we just talked on the fact that, yes, they are ranked 27th when it comes to coverage or whatnot, but very proud of this secondary. I think that they step up in moments. I wish we would have been able to get the stop that we needed to not have to take it to that Hail Mary at the end of the game. But, for the most part, I think that they're growing each week. That's something that I'm seeing. It could be just a slow start for this unit. And I think as they get a little bit better, get comfortable with what Dan Quinn is trying to do, obviously we're going to get better as we get personnel. But I think that that's the biggest thing with this team right now is they've got to find a way, just like the offense has found a way, to get better in something each week. And so, I think that this is still a good step here. You hold the Chicago Bears to 15 points. Can you build upon that now? Can you start to keep teams under the 20-point rank or under the 20-point mark, excuse me, that is going to be a good indication of that. And I think that they've taken away a lot of the splash plays. And so a lot of those early splash plays that we saw early on, I think that they're starting to take that away. And I mean, this was a game where it did test the secondary because they have some elite wide receivers do the Bears. I mean, they had a Dunze, they had Keenan Allen, you have Cole Kmet, you have DeAndre Carter, who used to play for us, and Gerald Everett. Like they had some playmakers out there, and DJ Moore, that could definitely make some plays. And also to DeAndre Swift, who's a very good receiver out of the backfield. So again, man, for the Washington Commanders to hold this offense to only 131 yards receiving, that is a good start for maybe the back half of the season. So let me know in the comments what you're thinking about the Washington Commanders at this point, because I think that they are starting to really catch some momentum on the defensive end. Just kind of going over some of the things that they did here in this last game. Do you feel like the Washington Commanders need to make a serious trade? Do they need to go out there and get a JC Horn, or do they need to go get an elite tight end to go with this potent offense? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And hey, we're going to start talking a little bit more about the Commanders as they get ready for the New York Giants. They are going to be on the road coming into this game, obviously from an emotional win against the Chicago Bears. But I said this before, I think this is the type of win that good football teams definitely get. And I think that when you get into deeper into the season, hopefully into the postseason, you're able to take away what you've learned from this game and utilize this, and hopefully you can hopefully that translates to a win. And so with that being said, this is Rico. This is Washington Commanders Insider. I will see you on the next one. Peace. I'm out. Peace.